No frills at
No.
all. So, well, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name's Fred Swan. I'm actually doing this at work right now. I work at a fireworks store.
Oh,
I'm the
really?
assistant. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm the assistant to the regional manager. But it's kind of slow this time of year, so there's not much need for an assistant to the regional manager. um, let's see. Married for 15 years. I got 3 kids, 14, almost 13, and 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And well, I've been atheist since I was 18, and I read a book at the library about it was just disproving the creation myths. And when it gave actual measurements for the art and then converted it to meters and then showed how many meters you'd have for each animal, it really didn't, for me, that just destroyed the whole Bible for me.
Yeah.
I see that, I'm like, oh, everything I've been believing all this time is a lie. And so I spent next 16 years or so as a devout atheist. And it wasn't until the past year or two that I started really looking at what we what we have in our culture and how it's all based on the Christian mythos. And I became and I said I can't be an atheist with it. I don't believe in God. I absolutely do not. But I need something, and so I started calling myself culturally Christian, because that's what I have. My culture is the Judeo-Christian heritage, and that's built this country, and so I should I should at least pay homage to that. And it was actually Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro on the Dave Rubin show that finally got my wife and I back to church. We were listening to the whole thing while driving along, and we get home, and I said, I think we need to go back to church. He said, I knew this was coming. Okay. Yeah.
Sounds kind of like your first colonoscopy. I knew this was coming.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And she's been resisting it so hard. I was telling her about the Sam Harris debate where he questions the idea of a God who cares if you masturbate, and then I relayed Peterson's rebuttal, his explanation to her. She says, I knew this was a bad idea. It makes too much sense. And all these stories, I've read the biblical I've watched the biblical series, and of course you got to parse out meaning through his verbiage.
Yeah.
That spreads for hours.
Yeah.
But inside there, it makes a lot of sense. It's all just like his 12 rules for life. It's all basic stuff. It's stuff that we already know, but he's explaining it. And looking back, I see that what probably chased me away from Christianity more than anything was the constant topical treatment of the biblical stories. From the time I was a little kid, Noah was the only good guy in a world full of evil, and that's why God sent the flood, and that was the end of it. Mm-hmm. There was nothing deeper to know there. Mm-hmm. There was nothing more to understand. It was literal. It was factual. It actually happened, mm-hmm. just the way it's written in the Bible, and there's nothing more to read into it. And as you get older, you get skeptical, and I I couldn't wrap my mind around something that was so simplistic. So, and yeah.
So you went to a church. What was
Yep.
that like?
Well, it was. I went to my old family church, the one I grew up in, and my pastor, Ira Hall, shout out to him. He was the youth pastor, and he was always very exuberant, very ready to to preach the gospel, and he worked exclusively with the teens. And then a few years ago, I find out that he's the pastor of the whole church. No, Ira can't be the pastor of the whole church. That's not what Ira does. He would never fit in there. Of course, he's great at it. And yeah, I took the plunge and took the family the first Sunday after Christmas. We had planned to go for the Christmas Eve service as a nice break-in period, but daughter ended up getting a fever and we couldn't go. So we go in, and I sit down and I think to myself, what the hell am I doing here? and still, I go in and I'm like, and I think to myself, what am I doing here? And the thing is, it's been good. The kids are behaving through it, and that's about all I can ask, because they really don't like the idea. I have two teenagers.
Sure.
And they hate the idea of going to church. For them, it's just boring and lame. My oldest is the most reticent, which I find odd because she's right into her Greek and Egyptian myths. She loves reading those. She can recite to me all the Egyptian gods and tell me what they do and some of their stories. And so I try to tell her, there's an awful lot of overlap between ancient Egypt and and the Bible. And the Bible myths actually have some bearing on your life.
It's true.
No, it's still church. It's still stupid and lame. Where my middle child, my boy, he'll go along with anything once you make him. You tell him it's time to do this, and then he does it, and he's fine. He gets right into it. My youngest actually loves the idea. She really likes it. She's 11. Her oppositional teenage hormones haven't kicked in yet, so she's still game. And
wow.
Yeah.
So what are you learning? So what are you learning?
What am I learning? A lot, and so much of it is hard to it's hard to put it all together. I've kind of got myself settled on the idea of God. In fact, I sent you an email about that a few days ago. How it's kind of all right there in the Ten Commandments, where God says, don't make any graven images of me. Don't think of me that way, because God is so much bigger than that. And at its simplest, I think, okay, we know what happened, how the universe is expanding from a central point. We know that there's something happened to start that off. We call it the Big Bang, because we don't know what else to call it. But we don't know what caused it. We don't know where the matter came from. We don't know what's outside of it. We don't know what came before it. As far as I'm concerned, whatever we don't completely understand, you may as well call it God. And then the more I listen to Peterson, the more I listen to yourself, the more I hear how our own consciousness is completely not understood. It's not misunderstood. It's not poorly understood. It's not understood. Yeah. We don't have the first clue what we're doing here with consciousness. Yeah. All we know is we have it.
Yeah.
And that's and learning how our consciousness plays off each other, how it goes so deep in our evolutionary history is absolutely astounding. And so God is everything outside the universe that we don't understand, and at the same time, God is everything inside our own head that we can't understand. And that I find that just amazing. So I so that's where I am with God.
Okay.
The Old Testament God, the God who created the universe, the God who who smites people, um, and my problem now is, well, what about this Jesus guy? Because Jesus, well, he's supposed to be an actual historical figure, and I've heard claims both for and against his actual existence. I haven't delved too deeply into this yet. Still looking for a good Peterson video to explain it. um,
Yeah, we're waiting around for him to get through Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers,
yeah.
Deuteronomy, all the way to Matthew.
Oh, that's good. That'll take him years. Uh, so yeah, this whole idea. So Jesus, for all intents and purposes, he existed. He actually hung out in Galilee and said things and did stuff. Right? Now, the nature of that stuff, that's where I start having problems. Turning water into wine and things like that, and rising from the dead, being born to a virgin, and to an extent, I can wrap my mind around some of these things, vaguely. I watched just one of those random, weird facts videos on YouTube. Somebody wanted to know about this story that circulates, this little urban myth that some girl who did not have a vagina gave birth, and they explain. I mean, I hope I don't want to get too crude that we can't post this up, but uh, basically, she had oral sex, and then some bad guy comes in, stabs her in the stomach, sperm spills out, and makes its way down to her uterus and impregnates her. It's one of those things. It should not happen. There's no way this should happen. But when you see how it happens, yeah, kind of makes sense in a weird way. And it's those kind of weird stories. Those one in a million things. There's how many times have we heard these stories of people who died and they were buried, and then oops, they weren't dead when they were buried. And so it's little things like that, and I can wrap my head around those things.
Mm-hmm.
I can get the full explanation.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say Jesus died, and then after 3 days he rose again because he's the Son of God, and Jesus magic, that's a little more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd said, well, he had some sort of brain injury, and everybody thought he was dead because he didn't have modern medicine, and then he came back to they woke up, I can get around that. It's when you start wrapping a historical figure in magic. That's where I'm having the difficulty right now.
Okay. So, I'm not surprised. That's given the time and space and culture we're living in. That's what many of us in this culture look at and say, that stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah.
that's our cultural background.
Yeah. And and I understand that in other times people accepted these strange happenings as just every part of everyday life, and I don't want to give up rationality.
And by rationality, you mean?
being able to trace my my thoughts and my beliefs back to a logical point of origin.
And what do you mean by a logical point of origin?
One thing follows another. When I trace the idea of God out to the extremities of the universe, to me that's the logical progression. You get to this end point of your understanding, and it's what's beyond that we call God. That makes logical sense to me. That's rational. Now, if you just told me, yeah, there's a big old dude sitting on a cloud up there, granting wishes to people who pray to him, I'm not gonna agree with you on. But the idea of something beyond our universe, yeah, I can handle that. So yeah, if I can make it make sense for me,
okay,
then I can go with
it. Okay. And so when you go to church, there's obviously some, I don't know what your church is like, but you experience some dissonance because you're around people for whom stuff like the virgin birth and water to wine, they just kind of say, oh yeah, no problem, because he's the Son of God. Or don't you really talk about that?
Well, that's the interesting thing about this, about my church. They're Baptist, they're conservative, which conservative Baptists are usually kind of out there, but these folks are very grounded. My pastor is very willing to meet me where I am. It's not this. Well, if you don't believe exactly this, and if you don't do just this, then you're an evil bastard and you're going to hell. It's in fact, the pastor when I came in, he was in the middle of this sermon series of what makes basically what makes a good Christian, and it boils down to there are none. Every single one of us is just we're heaps of garbage, and not a single one of us is worthy of the title good Christian. You muddle your way through life. You try your best to be a good Christian, and because it's by grace that you are saved. Do what good works you can, but if you fall flat on your face time and again, you're still good, because we all screw up.
Yeah. Right.
And so yeah, there's a lot of acceptance for me where I am. I know there's a few one-time hippies there that I knew before. There's a fellow with a nice garish neck tattoo. So people are coming from different backgrounds, and this is a growing church too.
Okay.
So.
Oh, it's very cool. Thanks for sharing this with me. That's
no problem.
It's exciting to hear. I'm always nervous when, so someone like you, he's watched the biblical series, and then they go into church, and then it's just a train wreck. I hate those stories. So I love a story like yours where the pastor is cool, and it's also kind of neat that this is the same town you grew up in, and you probably know other people in church just because you're part of the town, I assume.
Yeah. In fact, the thing that surprised me most was the lack of surprise on people's faces. I was bracing for all these old timers in the church to see me say, "Oh, Fred, you're back! Oh, yay! And I was ready to run out of there screaming if that happened. And that didn't happen. People were just like, people came up to me and said, "Hi, Fred, how are you?"
Yeah.
Just like as if they'd seen me yesterday.
Yeah.
As if I never left.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciated that. Yeah. I did get one guy who gave the deer in the headlights look when he saw me. And one kid that I knew outside of the church, I never knew him when I went to church, but he was going there when I was running away from the Bible streaming. He he was actually there back from California, where he's doing some sort of mission work, and he says, for the 1 week that I'm here, and you're here too, that's awesome. Yeah, we had a nice talk too.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's good. That's beautiful.
It's not bad. I like it.
Oh, that's good.
And my wife, she's been right on board.
Did she grow up in the same area as you?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
She grew up next town over from me, and she was raised in a super liberal home, and very very atheist. Her dad her dad actually did a living history at a local farm, and they had a chapel there, and he played the preacher, and he played it ironically because he was a hardcore atheist from the time he was in college, and so I think the big reason he took it was because it would be funny for him to play the pastor in the living history museum. So that's the kind of family she comes from.
Okay.
And so for me, even though I'm wondering why I'm here, I was able to fall back into the routine. The pastor, says, we're going to pray now. I sit forward and bow my head, just like I never left. And but for my wife, it's a bit harder for her because she never grew up in it, and she's quite invested in her, in her rational atheism that she was raised with. So it's I think it's a lot harder for her, and I think she's going to go kicking and screaming the whole way.
But she sounds like a wonderful woman. I mean, she's supporting you, and I mean, it's just beautiful.
Oh yeah, she absolutely is. And we've gotten the two of us have gotten more conservative together.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro is her thing.
Oh, okay.
He listens to Ben Shapiro. I listen to Jordan Peterson. So when Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson are talking together, well, boy, we're both listening to that with bated breath.
Okay.
So yeah, we get a lot. We agree on a lot.
Okay.
And our biggest reason for going to church was because we want our children to have that grounding.
Yeah.
We realize our kids don't even know the Bible stories.
Yeah.
These are Bible stories that even she, as an atheist, all her life, understood.
Yeah.
And we know that we'd already agreed on the cultural importance of Christianity.
Yep.
And now we're thinking, well, we have to take part in it. At the very least, we have to go through the motions for our children. And the reason I keep digging deeper is because I don't want to go to church as a complete hypocrite liar. I mean, that would be going against one of Jordan's, most important rules. I don't want to lie. At the very least, I want to, I want to tell the truth. And so, I first go in there with, what is God? I need to, before I even go into church, I want to have some sort of, tentative grasp on what God is to me, so that I'm not just going in there as some jerk who's, trying to leech off the system while not actually, putting my whole self into it. It would be the equivalent of going to Alcoholics Anonymous just for free coffee.
AA coffee is usually not very good.
No, it isn't.
Church coffee often isn't either.
Maybe that was a bad analogy. But I think you get my point. You don't want to just go and take something from these people, and not and not have some sort of accord with what they're believing.
Sure.
And
Well, I think a lot of people who aren't in the church probably don't understand that. I think in many churches are absolutely fine with people who come and listen and participate and engage, even if they're not on board with all of the beliefs of the church. That's tremendously common. I find, if you start talking to people, okay, in churches and people who've been members for a long time, you'll find all kinds of divergent heretical beliefs out there. It's just how people are. And so churches usually, it's in a sense, you compliment and honor the church by showing up, and church people are often very appreciative and very happy to have you. So I'm not surprised by any of this.
Yeah, well, I actually discussed it with Ira before I made the leap, because I wanted to. I don't know. It's almost like I wanted his permission. It's just I have this deep desire to fully engage in my cultural roots. This is where I'm coming from. Are you going to judge me, or are you going to accept me? I guess it was kind of, I was maybe testing the church beforehand. Are you guys going to be one of those where you believe in literal God up on his cloud, or are you going to be the church where anybody can come in, like you're saying? And I kind of knew what the answer was going to be, because I knew Ira from when I was a teenager. I had to be sure. And
oh, that's good. That's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. So what should we got about a half hour yet. So what should we talk about?
Well, I had when I set up the interview, we had a list of things. And but one of the things that I really want to work on is my kids, actually. Just because they are so resistant to it. I don't want to push it so hard that they get that they end up just like I was and get chased away. But I don't want to go so easy on them that I don't even make them go. I want them to have this ground. And and that's kind of what I've been feeling with the whole Jordan Peterson thing. Is okay. How do I give the Jordan Peterson experience to my kids? Obviously, my parents telling me to clean my room as a kid didn't work for me. Jordan Peterson had to do it. So how do we get this great phenomenon that how do we get it brought down to the level of teenagers? And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, I think the first thing to always remember is that your kids will, if the best way to influence your kids is to be who you want them to be. And I think because your kids are watching and absorbing, they, to the degree that they're conscious of everything that's going on, that's quite a bit more limited because they're children. So they're watching and absorbing, and I think they're watching this transition with you and your wife. And I would be, I would just be very upfront and direct with the kids and say, yeah, I know we're making you go to church. This is why. And you can be very upfront and say, when you go off to college or whenever, I'm not going to be there to make you go to church. And so I'm not hemming you in, or, I'm not being a tyrant on you here. I'm trying to give you something good. And what you do with it someday is going to be up to you. But I'm trying to give you something good. And it's important to me and your mother. And this is what we'd like to do. Now, it's a little bit difficult because often when the kids are earlier, like 3, 4, 5 years old, then they're just sponges, and they take in Bible stories, and they haven't yet kind of brought in a lot of these cultural objections, the likes of which you found as an 18-year-old by reading that book in the library. Those things come later, and they will come. But at this age, I think you're just upfront with your kids and say, this is, we're parents, and we ask things of you, including, doing your homework and getting good grades and keeping your room clean. And so this is part of the package of what we're going to ask of you. And we're not going to be tyrants about it, but this is part of the deal. And kids will often accept that. But as they get into the teenage years, and then they're differentiating, and and so you've got
they resist everything. They absolutely resist everything. And that's kind of what I've been doing. It's just we go to church now.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if the kids think we're insane, or if they just think we're intentionally doing this to ruin their lives. But I've actually found I've been able to have a handful of conversations with my oldest about it, where she'll actually sit and listen. The other day we had one. I explained the idea of God as I understand it, and my boy says, I asked him, well, what do you think is outside the universe? And my boy, always one with an answer. He always has an answer, no matter how ridiculous. He'll come up with an answer, even if it sounds stupid. He pipes right up with dark matter. It's just dark matter outside the universe. How do you know? Well, because I read it in one of my trivia books. Okay, you don't know. You read it. You read what somebody else knows or claims to know, but you don't know. And so we had a bit of a discussion about knowing, and then just today, taking the kids home from school, my daughter was talking about social studies class, and how all the kids in class are being taught at a 4th grade level because the teacher says none of you are paying attention in 4th grade. So we get to talking about how social studies is the study of culture, of your history, and how important that history is. And eventually, on the ride home, we got derailed by a discussion about cannibalism. Because this is the nature of discussions with teenagers.
Absolutely.
But we were able to have that frank discussion that I really appreciated being able to do that with them. And and when I'm not doing that, I'll be playing one of your videos or one of Jordan Peterson's while I'm driving along, not watching, just listening.
Which you can do with your Android phone.
Absolutely, I love it. It's the best thing ever. Best $50 I ever spent. So I imagine in the comments section there's going to be tons of people screaming about how iPhone's better. But let's see what else I have here. If we have a few minutes left here, I think we do.
Yeah, we do. We're doing good on time.
The phenomenon of atheists in church. I mean, this kind of astounds me more than anything. Because when I first got the idea to go to church, I thought that I thought that I was the only one. And the more I looked into it, the more I was reading, YouTube comment threads were great for this. The more I find that I'm not isolated in this one bit.
No.
In fact, when I talked to my pastor about the church, just in general, he said that one of the biggest growth areas, or rather, the biggest growth area is men, single men between 25 and 35. The same demographics who are listening to Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And they're just walking into church. And my pastor says, I have no idea where they're coming from. I know where they're coming from. So to see the phenomenon going that far is, and pastors not even understanding where it's coming from is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I don't even understand.
Yeah.
I mean, what is Jordan Peterson doing that is connecting with atheists?
Yeah.
You have that movie God's Not Dead.
Yeah.
Where the atheists are all these caricatures of a Bond villain, as if Bond villains weren't already caricatures. and that's what they've been using to try to reach out to atheists. They've been using these very these topical treatments to try to convince atheists, and it hasn't been working.
Yeah.
Then Jordan Peterson comes along, and what is it? Is it the Kermit voice? Is it just the father figure persona that that vibe that he projects? What is it?
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
I don't
what
know.
I've been spending a year and a half on. What is it?
Yeah, and I mean, at some point, you just gotta throw your hands up and say, I give up. It just is.
Yeah, it just is. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and this, so if you know anything about church history, this stuff has happened again and again around the world. Korea, for example. Korea, if you look at the history of Korea in the 20th century, just Korea, not a great place to be throughout most of the 20th century.
I've gotten that sense off it, yeah.
Yeah, and in the, and what happened in the early 20th century is that Christianity just exploded in Korea, and there are stories about it, and there people find reasons for it, but boom, it just happened. That's happening in China right now, and in certain places in Africa, and of course, as Christians will say, well, this is God and the Holy Spirit at work. But that doesn't mean there isn't a sociological or psychological layer to it, because reality is rich with all of these layers. And so often in our dualistic thinking, we think God or history. And no, it's God through history. And so, no, I've been, that's why I started making videos, because I was reading the comment section in YouTube too, thinking, what's going on here? But this is, and this guy who says, do you believe in God? I act as if God is real. And it's like, who says these things?
Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah, and every time you try to corner him on it, he's been asked that question over and over again, and he always gives the same answer. I act as if he's real. And then you look at other things he's said.
Yeah.
And he talks about, and he'll talk extensively about how you act it out before you ever put it into words. Yeah. Well, he's told you over and over and over again what he believes. Yeah. Yes, he believes in God.
Yeah.
No, he's not going to say it, because I really think if he came out and admitted a belief in God, his ministry, as it were, would be over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christians are going to see him as just another preacher.
Yeah.
And any non-believers are going to dismiss him as just another preacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as long as he remains skeptical, and I wonder if that might be, might not be part of it too. That being able to keep that seed of doubt. I can't say with 100% certainty that outside the universe and inside my own consciousness is God. But I can be reasonably okay with that. I don't need to necessarily have all the answers, but I need acceptable answers.
Yes, that's right. Because none of us
So,
have all the answers.
no, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Right?
Our brains
Give
are
us
only
an
this
infinite
big.
amount of time. Yeah, right. Yeah, given an infinite amount of time, we might understand everything, but as it stands now, we don't.
No. And like you said about consciousness, it's amazing what we live with and know so little about. Sleep. Sleep and dreaming. All of us do it. We've never met a person that doesn't. We know nothing. We know very little about it. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? There's nothing you can. There shouldn't be anything you can get from sleep that you can't get from just laying down and staring at the ceiling for a few hours, right? But apparently your brain has to go to sleep and recharge for whatever reason. Why can't I just put a cheeseburger in my head and and recharge my brain that way? Wouldn't that make perfect sense?
Yeah, I know. So it's no, and to me, this is just part of the reason I do these conversations and why I like to record them and then with permission post them is because I've heard your story, never exactly, every story is individual, but and so then it's like, so what is going on here? And this is fascinating, but it's also really cool because I get the sense that this has been a welcome thing for your life. And your kids are a little grumpy about it, but probably 10, 15 years from now, they'll look back on it and say, I kind of resented it, but I'm glad he took us. That's what kids are.
And I hope so. I hope so. They don't need to. I never did this with the expectation that anybody was going to say a prayer and invite Jesus into their heart or anything like that. I only want them to know where they came from and understand their roots, so that hopefully we can stem this tide of the bloody postmodernist.
Bloody postmodernism. but what's really key though is that you're going with them, because I've seen before parents are like, church is good for kids. You kids go to church. And the kids very quickly say, hey, if it's good for us, And so, no, you strike me as you and your wife are excellent parents and your kids are lucky to have you. So.
Yeah, we do what we can, and that's, maybe that's something that made it a little bit easier because, before you have kids, you think you can perfect your life. You think that if you do X, Y, Z, then your life will be perfect, because that's what they said in the commercial. That's what they told you in school, and then you have a kid, and you don't sleep. Your house smells like dirty diapers. Everything is just terrible, and then you think, okay, well, they're just babies. They'll get over this, and then they get over this and give you some new terror to horrify you and destroy your life. And and then in yourself, you always start out with these great ideas. Oh, my baby's gonna eat only organic baby food, and we're gonna breastfeed all the way till they're 2 years old. And all these perfect things are gonna happen. We're gonna get them into preschool right off, and we'll volunteer at the school every single day, and then you don't. Because other things get in the way. And life does not work out the way you want it to. And my wife and I will see new parents, talking the same way. Oh, I'm not gonna I'm gonna stretch out my kids' vaccines over the course of a few months, so it's or worse, I'm not gonna vaccinate them at all. Or you get these, again, organic food and cloth diapers, and I try to tell them what everybody tried to tell me, and they don't buy it. No, I'm gonna, I'm gonna do it. I can do it. I know better because I read all the books. Yeah, I did too. And yeah, you get angry. Sometimes you're louder with your kids than you want to be. You say stuff that you regret, because you are not perfect, and don't even try to be. And so I think, especially where I'm the way I'm coming at Christianity now, I'm able to see, yeah, I don't have to be perfect. This is a religion where if I don't follow it exactly, I'm not condemned forever. I am allowed to make mistakes, and even our society doesn't give that much leeway.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. You got to be perfect in society.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So we got about 5 minutes. What's
5 minutes?
What do you not want to miss talking about?
Don't know. Well, hell, while I'm right here, I'll show you my awesome sweatshirt.
I was wondering. So if you wear that at work, does anybody come in and say, it's like the secret handshake?
We we do have company approved sweatshirts. I'm not required to wear them, but it's encouraged.
But I wondered if customers recognize the Jordan Peterson meme on it or not.
So far, I haven't had anybody recognize it, but I've had a lot of people ask about it, and it's easy enough to, depending on the level of interest, to tell people, it's an admonition to straighten your life out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get a bit deeper. With a lady I know, she wanted to know what the lobster was all about, so I had to explain the whole lobster thing. But you can never do that quickly.
No.
So, but she loved the idea because she's actually a licensed clinical social worker.
Oh, okay.
So she understands some psychology, and when I told her the whole idea behind it, she really liked it. Who knows if she'll still be talking to me after she Googles Jordan Peterson and finds out that he's a right-wing extremist.
Custodian of the patriarchy.
Yes,
enforcing monogamy wherever he goes.
Absolutely. Well, I've decided I need a T-shirt that I saw that says, "I am the patriarchy." I need 5 of those, one for each day of the week. I like ruffling feathers, but that's another interesting thing, though. As much as I've always liked ruffling feathers, since I've been going back to church, I've been less keen on ruffling them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm trying to. I used to be an internet troll. All my friends on Facebook expect me to be a troll, and I always got the craziest memes and the harshest comeback. And for the past 6 to 8 months, I haven't been feeling it. For a while, I throw stuff up just to keep up appearances, but now I'm like, nah. And the worst I've been doing, I've been putting up pro-life memes online, and getting people much angrier that way, incidentally. And I'm not trolling. I'm not trying to get people upset. I'm trying to, show people, hey, life is a bit sacred.
Yeah.
So, And yeah, I don't feel like I need to go around, pushing people's buttons anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have other things I need to do. That's a nice pastime when you're depressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
when you start getting your life together, when you start cleaning up your room,
Yeah.
a good place to start for me was my own Facebook page,
Hmm.
and it's been fairly successful. I log in every couple of days, and check up on what's going on with my Facebook friends.
Well, good.
I don't.
That's a beautiful story too. I just it is. It's. Well, if you do decide that you'd like to post this, I'm sure your pastor would be quite gratified to hear this. So no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. From where I sit at the moment, I wouldn't mind it going up. But, we can proof
I'll
watch
send
it.
it to you, and you and your wife can watch it. And if you decide, nah, I don't want to be on Vanderklay's channel, then I won't post it. But
Yeah, well, I came in thinking, don't swear too much. That's a great way to make it not postable. But yeah, this was very enjoyable, and I wouldn't mind doing it again sometime when I get more questions for you.
That'd be fine. That'd be fine. You've got the link, so
super.
Well, thank you,
good talking to
Frederick.
you. All right, thank you,
pleasure
Paul.
to meet you, and say hello to your wife for me, and I'll say hello to your pastor for me.
Absolutely, I will.
Okay.
Have a good one.
You take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.